In this episode of the Ear Scouts podcast, we're spilling the tea about all of the different character dining meals at Walt Disney World, and we're going to share which meals are our must-dos and which meals are our maybe-nots. We've got 13 different restaurants to cover, so let's get to it. Hi-ho, everybody. This is Rob with Ear Scouts coming to you from our makeshift studio here in Celebration, Florida. I'm joined, as always, by the other half of Ear Scouts, Eric. Hi-ho, Eric.
Hi-ho, everyone.
Eric is going to be keeping up with the live chat over on Patreon. If you'd like to join us live as we record each episode and chat with Eric and us as we record the show and stick around for the Patreon exclusive after party, just head on over to patreon.com/earscouts. Also joining us from the great state of Connecticut is our good friend and the host of Jessica Scraps on YouTube, Jessica. Hi-ho, Jessica.
Hi-ho, everyone.
So sadly, not with us this week, although it's not so sad because he's having the time of his life in the UK right now. Quizmaster Craig is on vacation. He sent some pictures from the Cotswolds today that I have a new bucket list destination. I have to go visit the Cotswolds. So if you have never seen how beautiful that place is, you should Google it after the show because it'll end up on your bucket list too. But we are going to be doing a show all about character dining, and Craig said that was a good one for him to skip because he loves dining at Disney World. Character meals, not his cup of tea. So we're going to spill the tea without Craig while he's sipping tea in the UK. The other reason that we're doing this episode is because we actually just wrapped our new video that's going to be coming out probably around the same time as this episode, if not shortly thereafter, all about the Disney dining plan in 2026. And, you know, we wanted to update it from last year, one, because we got a lot of feedback from folks. One of the things that we heard from a lot of people was, yeah, you guys made it look like a really good value, but you also had cocktails with every single meal. And, you know, if we're having a family vacation and we're not going to be drinking it up at breakfast, are we still going to be able to make this a good deal? And so this year we did the whole video without getting a single cocktail or beer or wine. And I'm not going to spoil the ending, but I will say, I think that the Disney dining plan is a better value in 2026 than it was in 2025, which I guess probably does spoil the ending. But if you're contemplating it and you haven't seen that video yet, I would say it's probably a good deal this year. So worth considering. But with that said, let's jump into our main topic, which is what we're all here for today, and that is character dining at Walt Disney World. If you've never done a character meal, you're not sure what we're talking about. There are currently 13 restaurants at Walt Disney World, technically 14 if you count the one at the Four Seasons, but we're not counting that because it's kind of a third-party restaurant. But there's 13 dining spots where you can have a meal and you will be joined in some way, shape, or form by Disney characters. And in one case, they just kind of go through and give the royal wave. And in most cases, however, they're going to really interact with you and your family. And it's a great chance to get photos and sometimes autographs. And so if you really want to have that one-on-one character time and you don't want to wait in massively long lines because there's no lightning lanes for characters anymore, character dining can be a really good option for that. So I would say those are the pros of character dining. Do you have any other pros you would add to that, Jessica?
I think just to reiterate about the characters, my biggest pro is there are some characters you cannot even meet in lines. So just it's not just that you don't have to wait in the line. There are some characters, and then if you're really a character person, there are outfits that you will not see unless you do this. And I know because John and I met at the Christmas party, people that actually like their bucket list is to try to meet Mickey Mouse in as many outfits as possible. In order to do that, you have to do character dining. And I think that's just another one of the pros. If you're into the characters and you're into very specific characters, and I'll talk about just a second Mary Poppins because she used to be at 1900 Park Fair, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But my kids really wanted to meet her, and at the time, that was how you saw Mary Poppins. And I think there are some characters that this is the way to do it. So that's a big pro if your child is in particular characters. And we'll talk in more detail as we go through the day, but to me, that's one of the biggest pros.
Yeah. I would say there's really only one con that I can think of to character dining, and that is when it comes to enjoying your meal. If your main goal is to enjoy a nice meal, you are going to be kind of interrupted constantly to have a moment with characters. I mean, that's really what you're paying for. These meals are more expensive because the characters are, providing the entertainment for your meal. But that does mean also that you're going to kind of stop eating from time to time to like get a picture with the characters. And especially at the restaurants that have a lot of characters, that can be something that is a little bit distracting. And if you have littles, I'm guessing, who maybe it's hard enough to get them to eat even when they aren't distracted by characters, I can imagine that would be an extra hurdle to deal with. Do you have any other cons that you can think of, Jessica?
My one con is that some of these meals don't have characters at every meal. Some of these locations don't have the characters at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's only one of them or two of them, and if you're not up on, and we'll talk about that as we go through this, but if you're not up on that, you may schedule what you think is a character meal and show up and there's no characters, and that's kind of disappointing. The fact that they do that, in my personal opinion, is a con because that sets people up for a mistake that I don't like that. To me, it's setting people up for kind of disappointment, and I wish they would just either make it a character or not make it a character.
Yeah. Well, let us know over on Patreon, our Patreon family members who are watching, what you love about character dining and maybe some drawbacks to character dining. And as we go through these different restaurants, let us know what you think about them. And we'll check in with Eric as we go along to hear what's going on Patreon. But I'm going to start us off with our very first restaurant. We're going to go in alphabetical order. And then at the end, we'll pick our favorites and our not so favorites. But first in alphabetical order is Akershus Royal Banquet Hall in Epcot. So this is in the Norway Pavilion in Epcot. And you would think that would be where you would find Anna and Elsa from Frozen, but you will not actually find Anna and Elsa there. You will, however, find a delightful meal that is inspired by the cuisine of Norway and kind of Scandinavia, I think, more generally. And who you will find there is an assortment of princesses. It's not a set. It's not a set lineup of princesses, but there will typically be four princesses that are not Anna and Elsa. So the princesses that you might find at Akershus, you might find Cinderella, you might find Ariel, the Little Mermaid, you might find Aurora. It's possible that you would find Mulan. It's possible that you would find Jasmine. And am I missing anyone? Is
I think Belle,
Brave? Yeah,
uh,
Tiana
does
Bell.
Belle sometimes show up
Merida,
there?
Merida,
Merida.
Merida,
Yeah.
yeah, Merida, and it's a crapshoot. I find Akershus a crapshoot, but I mean it's good because you can go multiple times and get different princesses. But I think, and it's a good set of princesses. Four princesses for the price of one. You know,
Yeah. Well, and the food there, I really like the food. I haven't been there for breakfast. I've heard very good things about their breakfast, though. I've been there for lunch, and I really enjoy the character meals that kind of go outside of the box a little bit with the culinary options. So there's definitely things on the menu that little kids are going to like. I mean, they're going to have like the Swedish meatballs there. There's a lot that kids will enjoy, and I'm pretty sure that the if you have little ones, they can also just get really basic fare if they want. They don't have to get, they could I think they could probably just get like chicken tenders, right? At Akershus.
Yes.
So but if you want something a little bit more elevated, I think a lot of the dishes there you're not going to find in other parks outside of Epcot, and I think it's really good food. I really enjoyed it, and that was one of the highlights for me. I would say the downside potentially to Akershus, number one, if you're not into princesses, that's all you're going to meet is princesses. And number two, we'll talk about this as we go through, these are all face characters. And what we mean by that is these are characters that they will carry on conversations with you, right? And so if you're less comfortable engaging with characters, or you have little ones who are maybe less comfortable engaging in a conversation with characters, this might be a little bit much just because it's just a much more interactive experience when you're dealing with the face characters who can speak with you. And so if it's their first time or you've got really little ones, unless they're just super into princesses, you might want to consider one of the other options where it's maybe Mickey and Friends, where it's more of a pantomimed kind of interaction that I think is easier sometimes for little kids. And any other thoughts on Akershus, Jessica?
I will say, just as a reminder, Anna and Elsa meet right outside. So there's already a meet and greet right there in Norway. That might be part of the reason why they're not there, but they are welcoming in. I know people are surprised, but and I don't think there's a way to know who your rotating princesses are, which I think is the worst part. I wish there was a way to know before you scheduled it. I think that would elevate this a little bit. And also, um, I don't know if you were gonna talk about this or not, but breakfast is only 1, I think, dining credit, but dinner there
Yeah,
is 2. Dinner
yeah,
there is 2 dining credits. So, as far as the cost, this is a 2 dining credit princess dinner if you go there, so just remember that. And it's only a
yeah.
1 dining credit breakfast. What you'll find is breakfast a lot of times is the way to go.
So yeah, if you're on the dining plan, what we're referring to with the credits, most every meal at Walt Disney World only requires one meal credit to enjoy, but there's a handful of restaurants and Akershus for, is it just dinner? It's lunch and dinner, isn't it? It's
Lunch and
lunch
dinner,
and dinner.
yes.
Yeah. Akershus lunch and dinner require two of your dining credits to eat there. And if your goal is to get the best bang for your buck out of those credits, you don't want to eat at any of the restaurants that take two. It's never a good value. It never works out in your favor. So, Eric, what are we hearing over on Patreon about Akershus?
So Jennifer mentioned that she loves Akershus breakfast. Jennifer wrote, "Love Akershus breakfast," which was surprised because we weren't huge fans of their lunch menu back when it was buffet. And
Yeah,
also
so this
Jasmine
used
was
to be a buffet before the pandemic.
Mhm.
And when the pandemic happened, everyone was kind of icked out by buffets. And so a lot of restaurants, Disney converted over to be kind of family style meals. And that's what it is now. So you still get as much as you care to eat, and they will keep bringing whatever it is that you'd like more of, but it's going to be served to your table. And that's a good thing to point out that we didn't mention earlier. And I, before we continue with that comment from Eric, I do want to also add that's a big plus when it comes to character dining. And we'll go over that with some of these other restaurants that have that feature. Anytime you're getting table service, it makes it much easier to interact with the characters, because when it's a buffet, you're always anxious. Oh, I want to go get something else from the buffet, but am I going to miss that character? Or then, you just get back from the buffet and then you've got to do a character interaction. Your food's getting cold. The fact that you have table service makes it a lot less stressful when it comes to dealing with characters. But having said that, continue. What else are we hearing?
Mhm. Also Jasmine was mentioning that she has seen Snow White over there, which I
Oh yeah.
remember. Yes, I remember seeing her last time we were there. And but also she brought to our attention that it's good for plant-based folks there for breakfast as well.
Yeah, I can't wait to get over there for breakfast because I've heard great things. Well, are we ready to move on to our next restaurant?
So our next restaurant alphabetically is Artist Point. So it's storybook dining at Artist Point with Snow White. So this is actually over at Wilderness Lodge. And this is the first one where I want to make sure we understand that it's dinner only. So you can only do this not for lunch, dinner only. So like I said, one of my cons here is my dad. I think if you've listened to the podcast long enough, know that Snow White is his favorite princess. It always has been, always will be. And so he really wanted to meet Snow White. We do it every time he visits with us. And this was on his bucket list. We had to figure out how to leave the parks and go for dinner because you couldn't do it any other time. So that is Wilderness Lodge. It's also a 2 credit meal. So it's another one that's 2 credits. It has a combination. I would say it's a combination of it's served at the table, but of like a family style. Plus, you choose your entree. So they bring all the appetizers up together. All the desserts are a tray, but you choose your entrees. It's not anything amazing. There's a chicken dish. There's a fish dish. There's a steak dish. It's a good variety of food. The appetizers, they had a mushroom soup that was pretty good. But nothing that's like, I wouldn't say this is the fine dining. The big draw to Storybook is the characters you meet. You get a really good interaction with Snow White and then 2 of the dwarfs. You get Grumpy and Dopey. And they come to your table and they spend time. We were there and there was a child next to us. They spent a lot of time with that child. It was a great interaction for that kid with Dopey, and Grumpy came over, and it was a really cool interaction. But the star of the show, sorry, Dad, is not Snow White.
Mhm.
The star of this show is the Evil Queen, and the Evil Queen, and it's whatever version of the Evil Queen you see, it's amazing. When we did the Disneyland episode, we talked about how some of them were just, smarter, kind of quicker. This Evil Queen, she was improvising, she was doing it, and that is the star. And there's a PhotoPass photographer there as well,
Mhm.
taking pictures. So you get good pictures of your family with the Evil Queen. That is the star of that dinner. It was a great interaction. So it was by far, one of the best interactions we've had with a character was the time we spent with the Evil Queen.
Yeah, I 1,000% agree with you. The Evil Queen is the star of that show. And what's cool
Hmm.
about it, Snow White and Dopey and Grumpy will come out and they go from table to table. They also do like a little bit of kind of like a floor show at one point where they kind of do a
Yeah.
song and it's very cute. I think so that's awesome. But then the Evil Queen will summon you when she's ready to have an audience with you.
Hmm.
What's good about this is number one, they can kind of time it right in your meal usually. So it's not something where, the entrees just came down and then, oh, it's your one chance to meet the evil queen. So you're just gonna leave your entree there and go meet, they can kind of time it better that way. I will say about the food, I think the best way to think of the food at Artist Point, a lot of people love it. A lot of people rave that they think it's the best food. And there are definitely highlights. And I think it depends on which thing you order as to how you're going to feel about it. To me, I liken it to cruise ship food,
Mm.
which I don't mean that as an insult. Like there's some great things on cruise ships, but it's kind of food that you can tell has been, when they bring out the appetizers and they bring out the desserts, it's the same thing for everyone. And, you can tell they're kind of cranking this stuff out, which is like they do on the cruise ships. And there's certain things that lend themselves well to that kind of preparation, like the soup that you mentioned, is going to be good, even if you're cranking it out. And then there's other things that I feel like for me, I was like, I don't love this. I'm feeling there's like a canapé or something. I was like, yeah, it's kind of forgettable, but it's it's hit or miss the food there, in my opinion. All right, moving on to our next restaurant. This is the one that I feel like it's barely a character meal. I'm going to consider it a character meal because a character does make an appearance, but it is Be Our Guest at the Magic Kingdom. You are a guest at Beast's castle. And during the course of your meal, Beast will grace you with his presence very briefly from time to time. He's going to walk down the main, walkways of each of the dining rooms, and he's going to kind of give you that I'm in a royal procession kind of wave, and he might, nod a little bit in your direction from time to time. They will tell you that you are not to get up and try to have interactions with the beast. So if what you're aiming for is a true, getting photos with a character or having interaction with a character, this is not the location for you. It's also kind of notorious for having um, some of the, let's just say their menu is not the favorite of many people who've done a lot of character dining meals. Um, on the plus side, you are in Beast Castle, which is kind of a cool landmark in Magic Kingdom, and the only way you can explore it is to have a meal there. Number two, the dining rooms are beautiful. I mean, these are some of the best themed dining areas in all of Walt Disney World. They are stunning, and it really, no matter which dining room you get put in, most people want to be in the classic, the big dining room that reminds you of where they were having their dance, where Bella's in the yellow dress. That's I'm not sure, the grand hall, I guess, is sort of the idea of it, but there's also a dining room themed to Beast's study, where there's the rose and the fireplace, and then it's just every single room is great. Um, so there are some things, if you're a Beauty and the Beast fan, you're gonna love being in those environments. I think really the reason that it is limited is because the Beast, he has a big ego. He has a big head, and he's also known to lose his head, if you know what I mean. So he has to he has to be very delicate with his interactions with folks, and so that's why it's kind of a more limited experience.
When we went, I will say at the time, my kids who were in their early 20s, so not like kids, they would have told you it was one of their favorite meals. They really liked it. I think because they didn't have to pay for it. I think that was probably part of it. But I think if you're a meat eater, I guess I was really upset. They had almost nothing that I could eat. Almost every because it's French food, which is I have a lot of problem with French food because it's always but the kids at the time, and I think John too, I think everybody kind of liked the food. So it's, if you like French food, I've heard it's pretty good French food. It's not my jam. Is it not? Okay.
I
I've
mean,
heard it 50-50. Some people seem to really like it. Some people
Yes.
don't. So
Yeah.
I would look at the menu, and if it's something that is really exciting to you, maybe you'll like it, but it's expensive. I don't know if it's 2 table credits. It's expensive. It's expensive. I don't think you touched on that, but it's expensive.
it's very expensive, and the menu. I don't know when you went, Jessica, but the menu changed after. Would you go before or after COVID?
After COVID.
Okay, so yeah, you went after
Yeah,
the
I
new
went
menu.
after
Yeah.
COVID.
So actually, this used to be, believe it or not, before COVID. This was actually, I think, for lunch. It was a quick service,
It was
which
good
is
then.
which I've heard good things about when it was a quick
Everyone,
service.
everyone raved about it.
Yeah. So I think hopefully maybe Disney will one day take it back to quick service for lunch, or maybe make a quick service breakfast or something to
Mhm.
give people a more a way to make that accessible to more folks, because it is a very expensive table
Mhm.
service meal.
It's very expensive,
Uh,
and there's no breakfast. I don't know if you
yeah,
said that. This one has
I
no
did not,
breakfast.
but yeah, there's no breakfast currently. So, but that could be an opportunity, Disney. Jessica, what is our next restaurant on the docket?
So I am doing one that is at the Beach Club. And this is another where it is breakfast only this time. So we've done a few that are dinner only. Now I'm going to do breakfast only. So you guys are seeing where my con is coming in. And that is Cape May Cafe. So Cape May Cafe is at the Beach Club. It's a breakfast. It's very reasonably priced, and it's 1 dining credit. I will just say this is probably in this list one of the more reasonably priced breakfasts. It is a buffet, though. So if you have concerns about the buffet, that's kind of one of those places. It's a buffet. They do have a omelet station on this buffet, which I think elevates it on some of the other buffets on property as far as breakfast goes. So the full service omelet station, and they have Donald and Daisy, Goofy, and Minnie in beach attire. So they're going to the beach. Also, because it's breakfast, you can go there, get a reservation there, go in the beach club, and then go hit the international gateway to Epcot. So there's a lot of pros to this if you're kind of planning a day.
So I found it to be a pretty basic breakfast buffet. I mean, there wasn't anything that I thought was like standout amazing. I agree, it's nice that it has an omelet station, but I mean, it's a pretty traditional breakfast. It's the outfits. This
Hmm.
one, I mean, these are some of the most adorable. If you're really into, the Fab Five and you want to see them decked out in a unique way, and that's another thing we should mention because it's a good thing to bring up. If you miss a character because you're at the buffet or maybe they just came right before you were seated, a character attendant will usually be coming around throughout your meal and making sure they'll be keeping track of all the characters that you've seen. So just let them know if you're getting ready to leave, you're ready to kind of wrap up your meal and you haven't met someone, they're really good about making sure that that character makes their way back over to your table. So my next one that I'm going to talk about is kind of notorious. This one is there's some people who love it, and there's a lot of people who strongly don't love it. It is Chef Mickey's at the Contemporary Resort. I think it's probably, if you say character dining to a lot of people, this is maybe the first meal that comes into their heads because if you ever ride the monorail in the morning, you go right over Chef Mickey's, on your way to the Magic Kingdom. And that is kind of one of the cooler things about this is you're there and you're dining and there the monorail comes right through the restaurant. It's a cool vibe for that reason. It's also unique in that this is, I think, the only character dining meal where there are 5 characters. You get the full Fab Five. All of them come to your table, and I think all the others max out at 4. So here you'll get Mickey and Minnie and Donald and Goofy and Pluto, I believe is the mix. And you don't get Daisy, sadly, but you get the Fab Five. And the plus side is you get a lot of characters. They're all dressed like kind of chefs, and they look like they're working in the kitchen. And just so you know, while it's called Chef Mickey's, Donald is under the impression that he is actually the chef. So don't make the mistake when Donald's around of thinking that Mickey is the chef. Because no, it is Donald. Donald's number one. But it's
Mm.
we went there for breakfast. I've never done it for lunch or dinner. I can say I've seen the buffet. It's a buffet restaurant. We should mention that as well. I've seen the buffet for lunch and dinner, and it doesn't look stellar. It looks like it's pretty mid in terms of your selection for lunch and dinner. For breakfast, though, it's your basic breakfast. It's what you're going to expect to find on a breakfast buffet. Nothing was, you know, mind-blowingly good, but nothing was really bad either. It was just kind of basic, I would say. And for a lot of families, that's kind of what you're looking for, right? You got little ones who have very, picky palates and they want the food that they're familiar with for breakfast. That's what you're going to find here. Mickey waffles are definitely on the menu, eggs, bacon, sausage, and they have a lot of different breakfast cereals. Um, I do remember there was a family sitting next to us, and the parents were audibly quite displeased with what they had paid for this breakfast, and all their kids were eating were Fruit Loops. But it was a very expensive bowl of Fruit Loops for that family.
It
Um,
was.
this is a very expensive meal. I think, in terms of what you're getting for your meal, I would say this one is kind of a little overpriced maybe, because it doesn't have some of the more exciting food options you're going to find at some of these other buffets. But you do get that cool ambiance at the Contemporary. You get the monorail, and you get 5 characters. Anything else to add to that one, Jessica?
It's loud. I mean, that's one of the things you didn't mention is that it is loud. If you have a child with sensory issues, this is probably the loudest of all of these restaurants. And it gets louder because they do things to make people sing songs, do chants, do your napkin in the air. That restaurant itself, because of the monorail, because of the architecture of the Contemporary, it's just a loud place. But if you're looking to meet the Fab Five characters and you have a child with sensory issues, this may not be the choice.
Yeah. That did remind me, though, if you've got a kid who really wants to, interact in a big way with the characters, this is maybe the best because they will have like little dance parties, where the kids will get up and dance with the characters. And because it's not a huge space, the characters, and there's 5 of them, I think we saw every character twice. I mean, they come around a lot. And I just remembered this is another one where there is a dedicated PhotoPass photographer. There's a PhotoPass. You actually go to a specific location and take pictures. It's not always with a character. I think
There's a
you just get
backdrop.
it's like a
It's just a
backdrop that you
backdrop.
get your
It's not a
picture
character.
taken with. And you might get lucky. It's possible, like maybe like a character might be passing through, but don't expect to get character pictures from the PhotoPass photographer.
Yeah. I mean, we've done it twice. We've done breakfast and lunch. This was a while ago when my kids were smaller, and the kids loved it and I hated it. But because of the reasons why, I mean, it's loud, it's overpriced, it's a lot. But if your kids want to do the dance party and they want to, it's a lot of fun for kids. I think I made mom go to that one when the kids were small too. I don't think she was a fan either. But yeah, it's exactly what you think it is. If you've seen it, it's exactly that.
Yeah. Eric, anything we're hearing on the chat about Chef Mickey's?
Following with Jessica, Jules mentioned, I've seen video of the noise and crowds at Chef Mickey's, and it was enough for me to steer clear.
Yeah, and you can kind of tell sometimes when you're in the monorail going over, you look down. I mean, it's sometimes it's a wild time down there. Well, now it is time for, I would say, in many respects, this is kind of the crown jewel of character dining experiences. What is our next restaurant, Jessica?
Our next restaurant is Cinderella's Royal Table. Another one that is actually, and this is much like Chef Mickey's. This one is breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So we got all 3. Finally, we've got one that's going to cover all 3. This, however, is 2 table service credits for both breakfast and lunch and dinner. So all of that. And Cinderella's Royal Table, you were guaranteed to meet Cinderella, but the other princesses are a random assortment of princesses. Much like we said for Akershus, it could be Merida, it could be Jasmine, Ariel. We saw Rapunzel once. We've seen, I'm trying to think who else. We saw Aurora. So you could see a lot of different ones there. And you don't know when you walk in the door. So if your child has a princess they have to see this, and it's not Cinderella, you can't guarantee they're going to do this. The big benefit, the number one benefit, is you eat in the castle. It's a plated meal. So unlike the other ones, it's not a buffet, it's a plated meal. There's choices. If you have a child who's going to order chicken tenders and mac and cheese, this is an expensive chicken tender and mac and cheese, but there is a chicken tender and mac and cheese option. There's also a Mickey waffle option. It's one of those things where I don't remember thinking the food was bad. Like the food was not why I was there. The reason that we went there both times we've went there is to watch my child eat in the castle and to be in the castle and to climb those stairs and to take those pictures and to see the princesses. It's one that, although if you have a child that really wants to meet a princess, and it's a big deal. It's a cool experience. It's another one that's expensive, but I think it's worth it in a lot of ways. And they do have a dedicated photographer to take a picture with Cinderella. You get either a star wand or a sword when you leave as a souvenir. And at one point in my life, I had those star wands in my office. I think my children might have taken theirs back, but I had them. I had them in the office. I mean, for probably 15 years, I had that star wand as a reminder of that trip in the office. I have pictures of my kids with meeting the princesses. It's a cool experience. It's everything you want it to be. You go into the castle. So the con is as expensive, I think, in my mind.
So this is the only one that I have not yet done. I'm definitely planning to do it at some point. Um, I think I'm the only one here who's never been inside Cinderella's royal table, because Eric has been inside Cinderella's royal table many times. I've never set foot in there. I have heard from folks that the ultimate experience is to make your reservation during fireworks
Agreed.
and to experience the fireworks show from inside the castle. Is apparently a very cool experience. Um, and I've heard the food on multiple occasions. I've heard people describe the food as like wedding or banquet food.
I remember the dinner. I don't remember if we did dinner or lunch, but I remember the lunch being better than the breakfast. Like I
Mhm.
remember thinking, "Oh, this was worth it. This was, this was a good meal when we ate the dinner. The breakfast was just breakfast food." Um, that's probably fair. A good wedding food, a good banquet food is probably what it is. I mean, it's mass produced food. There's only like three items on the menu, so and
Yeah.
they're churning you out, man. There's a lot of
Right.
people that go to Cinderella's table every day. So for that, it's good food. Good
That is
experience.
the other downside I've heard from people, and you just mentioned that apparently this is one where you're gonna feel a little bit rushed, through your meal
You
more
will
and
only
I
meet each princess once. It's a one-time through with the princesses. You can't really, unless you take your child to the bathroom, you're not gonna miss a princess because you don't have to go to the buffet. But it's one princess once most of the time, and it's a pretty fast service. It's a fast service. So there's pluses and minuses to that. You're not spending hours missing park time. But if you have a slower eater, it might be hard.
Eric, did you have anything to add about Cinderella's Royal Table, or do we have anything from the chat?
From Jennifer, um, she wrote, CRT was our last meal on property in 2025, just before the Christmas party. When we finished, to paraphrase my husband, said, "Wow, I didn't expect much from the food, but I think this was my favorite meal on property this year."
Well, that's great to hear. So sounds like maybe it's also possible. So what I heard about the food was quite a while back. So maybe it's also possible that the food has just been improving. One last thing I'm going to mention about Cinderella's Royal Table, because this is important. If you want to do Cinderella's Royal Table, this is one that you will need to book the very moment reservations open for you. And this is a good time to mention that if you're staying at a Walt Disney World Resort hotel, you can book for your entire hotel stay up to, I think, a total of 10 days for restaurants, starting 60 days out from your check-in day, and it'll be at 6 a.m. But if you're not staying at a Disney World hotel, you have to book 60 days out from the day you want to dine, starting at 6 a.m. And the challenge is a restaurant like Cinderella's Royal Table, which is extremely popular, in many cases is going to be completely booked up by hotel guests by the time it comes available to the general public, which is unfortunate. But if that does happen to you, I would recommend there are apps out there that you can use that will keep an eye on the reservations for you. And if one pops open during your trip, it'll let you know. Stakeout is one of those apps that I've used in the past, but there are others. So the benefit of Stakeout is if you're just watching one restaurant, if you're just watching Cinderella's Royal Table, you can use it for free. It'll watch one, sort of meal slot for you at a specific restaurant for free. Um, or just keep checking. If you miss it, just keep checking from time to time, and hopefully you'll get lucky and find a reservation pop up. Well, our next restaurant is one that I've got to be honest. I was really surprised by how much love this restaurant gets because I'd only eaten there for lunch, and it was fine. There were things I loved about it, but it wasn't something that I considered one of my favorites. But boy, oh boy, we did a poll on Patreon. We're going to release the results later, but this restaurant did very well in that poll. And when we did our Hidden Gems episode, Jessica listed this as a hidden gem for breakfast specifically because they have the famous Mickey churro waffles, which typically you can only get one day on your cruise voyage on a Disney cruise. I mean, even on a Disney cruise, it is a very coveted meal item that only happens one morning, but you can also get it every morning at the breakfast buffet at Crystal Palace. This is a restaurant that is in the Magic Kingdom, and I'll start with the things that I love about this place because there are things that I love about it. It is gorgeous inside. It is one of the most beautiful restaurants. It feels like you're in an English conservatory. I mean, with just lots of greenery, lots of plants, lots of windows. It's very bright. And it's a lovely kind of elevated atmosphere. It compared to the other dining options in Magic Kingdom, it's a little chaotic because it's still, character dining. But when compared to the other restaurants, it feels a little bit more refined. Certainly more refined than Chef Mickey's. Um, It's also a unique one because the characters that you meet here are the characters from the 100 Acre Wood. So it's Winnie the Pooh and Eeyore and Tigger and Piglet. And if you're a fan of Winnie the Pooh, this is the only place where you can meet Winnie the Pooh in a character meal setting. So this will probably go to the top of your list for that as well. I have not tried it yet for breakfast, but I gotta say, after the poll today and after Jessica's ringing endorsement in the Hidden Gems episode, I'm actually really looking forward to going back to Crystal Palace for breakfast. I can only give a review of lunch and dinner, which is to say that it was pretty meh. I didn't love the buffet for lunch. Um, it was kind of not really. I mean, I can't even, so much so I can't really remember much of what was on the buffet. Everything was just kind of. I remember that there was a so-so salad bar that was pretty limited, and like some broccoli and just kind of basics on the hot bar. I didn't love the lunch buffet, but it sounds like breakfast is the place to be. In fact, I was surprised to see how many people had voted for it. So I asked in the comments on Patreon, I said, everyone who voted, let me know, did you go for breakfast or lunch or dinner? And overwhelmingly, the answer was breakfast. So I do think that's the secret.
Yeah.
Jessica, you're a big fan. So take it
I've
away. What are your
only been
thoughts?
I've only been for breakfast. I mean, that's the key. I honestly couldn't I've never been anything other than breakfast. And spoiler alert, this is my top. I mean, we love breakfast here. I have been to this character dinner more than any other character meal at Disney. I love the fact that you can meet Eeyore. I think I've said this in another podcast. We have a son who loves Eeyore. It's the only place outside of parties you can meet Eeyore consistently. Pooh and Tigger, you can sometimes see at you see Pooh and Tigger outside the ride, but Eeyore and Piglet, this is it. So for me, this is just the best. It's a guaranteed best characters, guaranteed great interactions, really good breakfast buffet, and a good way to start your day at Magic Kingdom, in my personal opinion. But I understand if you've been there for lunch and dinner, you may have been disappointed. Please give it another shot and go for breakfast, is what I would ask.
All right. Eric, what are we hearing on the chat about Crystal Palace?
Breakfast. That's the main answer. And the reason is because Jessica converted us all to Crystal Palace churro waffles. So
I didn't know everybody didn't know that because I thought that was a big draw,
I had
but
no idea.
it is the best. It's the number one reason. It's not the number. Actually, the breakfast buffet is good, y'all, even without churro waffles. But churro waffles kind of takes it over the edge.
We were just on the Wish, and Churro waffles is there's a lot of things at Disney, let's be honest, that are legendary that people just rave about, and then when you actually have it, you're like, "Oh, I mean, okay, that's good, I guess." But the churro waffle is one of the few things that truly lives up to the hype. I mean, this thing,
Yes.
imagine a Mickey waffle that has been deep fried and then rolled in cinnamon sugar. I mean, how can that not be delicious? And yeah, it's really good.
It's amazing. Am I up next?
Yes, you are. So what is the next restaurant on our list?
The next restaurant on our list is we're going to Epcot, back to Epcot, and we're going to the Garden Grill. So, Garden Grill is in Epcot in the Land Pavilion. It is a rotating style restaurant, which means the floor rotates slowly through the Living with the Land ride. So, this is kind of a unique experience. It is a gardener farmer theme. So this is where you could see Farmer Mickey, which what I said in the beginning, one of the pros was to see characters in unique costumes. Mickey, Pluto, Chip and Dale are the four characters you'll see here. The food is served family style here. And for breakfast, it's the normal Mickey waffles, sausage, eggs. For dinner, it's a turkey, steak, some vegetables, I think a salad, bread rolls. It's a pretty decent kind of just family style meal. It's I think the theme here is it's nothing to write home about in some cases, but it was good. And the character interactions, once again, the costumes, character interactions, and going through Living with the Land. That's a big draw for a lot of people is going through Living with the Land. So um, I think that's it. I've only been once to Garden Grill. We enjoyed it. I will say, and I think maybe Eric will speak on this. It does move. The restaurant moves. So if you have some motion sickness, this might not be the ride. The ride. This might not be the meal for you. Um, and it is distracting, I think, for little kids because the restaurant's moving, so they're seeing the ride. So it's kind of it's distracting a little bit. But it was a good experience to be able to do Chip and Dale. To me was the big draw for this one.
So here's the thing. You say if you have motion sickness issues that you might need to be aware. Eric, do you have motion sickness issues on, say, the teacups? You okay? Yeah, you okay with the teacups? Let's say Guardians or Star Tours. Do those give you no issues at
Feel
all?
nothing. Nope.
Garden Grill. How do you feel about Garden
Oh
Grill?
boy. Oh boy, no. I can't.
So it's the only thing I've ever seen Eric get like motion sickness from is the Garden Grill, which I think is funny. Of all the attractions at Walt Disney World, the only one Eric can't do is Garden Grill. Um, I I did not have that issue, and I know, I think, but it's one of those things that if you have it, I mean, Eric couldn't finish his meal. He had to leave. I mean, he had to
Hmm.
go because he just couldn't. So, Eric, what are your thoughts on Garden Grill, and what are we hearing from Patreon?
In the chat, Diana wrote, "The cinnamon bread at Garden Grill breakfast is to die for. My friends enjoy the all-you-can-eat steak for breakfast. I have motion sickness, but I took Dramamine before I ate. Saw each character about four times."
Yeah. I will say that's another great thing about Garden
Hmm.
Grill. You will see the characters more than once. It's not a huge space, and they make the rotation, pun intended, several times. And the other thing that's great about it, it is one of those. It's a table service where they're going to bring the food to you, and so you have more quality time with the characters. You're able to enjoy your meal a little bit more, and they don't rush you out there at all. I feel like you could hang, and they're not gonna, run you out the door.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so the next one I'm going to talk about, I am surprised because this one has not gotten any love. It's people are not fans of this one, whereas I feel like Eric and I both, especially the first couple times we went, were like, this is a step up in terms of the buffet. We really liked it. We had good experiences, but Hollywood and Vine at Hollywood Studios, not a popular location, it seems. I think maybe one of the reasons for that is because during the morning it would be the Disney Junior characters, and then in the afternoon it would be Mickey and it would be Minnie and the gang. And then if it was the holidays, then it would always be Minnie and she would be dressed in like holiday things. But if it was Halloween, it was always like Vampirina. It was just all over the place. And people kind of you didn't know what you were gonna get. And I also think that when it was the Disney Junior characters, those were less popular. I think with a lot of families maybe saw during the day that it was Minnie, and so they were excited to book it for breakfast, and then they go there and it's, Fancy Nancy and Vampirina and that crew, Doc McStuffins. Um, I think Disney has heard from folks that maybe wasn't quite as popular. So now the Disney Junior crew, at least for right now, is gone. It's always going to be Minnie, and it's going to be Minnie and Mickey, and I believe it's Goofy and Pluto is the
Mhm.
mix. And they're going to change their outfits depending on the season now. So if you come near Halloween, they'll be dressed in Halloween costumes. Christmas, they'll be in their Christmas finery. Right now, they're going to be decked out for spring. But they kind of change their outfits depending on the season. The food there is a very just straight up traditional buffet. If you go for breakfast, it's going to be, what you'd expect from a breakfast buffet. If you go for lunch and dinner, it's basic. There's not anything specific on the menu that's unique, I would say, that I can think of. Um, it's it's good though. I mean, I will say the last time we were there, it was a little subpar, but even then, it was a good buffet. It wasn't bad. There were definitely some good things on the menu. I also appreciated that there were a lot of healthy things on the menu. If you're a plant-based eater, there were a lot of plant-based options. So I don't know. Uh, Fair warning, though, my opinion that it's a good buffet is not shared by everyone. A lot of folks didn't care for it. So, Jessica, I know you are definitely not a fan of Hollywood and
Well, I
Blind,
mean,
correct?
no, this is the one that I haven't been to. You haven't been to
Oh,
Cinderella's Royal Table. This is the one I haven't been to because the reviews were so the ones reviews that I've read have been so negative. I mean, this is one of those that I said, well, if I'm gonna do a buffet, I'd rather do Cape Mays, or I'd rather do, a sit down meal, or I'd rather do this. I'm not gonna spend time for the buffet there. So this is the one on the list that I've actually never been to. I am every time during Halloween, I am tempted because of the costumes, and I do want to see those costumes. That's the only one that tempts me. But I'm also much more likely to do breakfast than lunch or dinner ever at a big. That's when I want my big meal in the heat. I don't want to eat a big meal lunch or dinner ever in Florida. So I'm always more likely to get bang for the buck by eating breakfast at one of these. So when it was not going to be the Mickey Halloween, I didn't wasn't interested. But now, if they're going to have Halloween characters, it might be something I try this year. But I'm this is the one I've not done.
all right. Eric, what are we hearing on Patreon? They were not loving it earlier today in the chat. What are they saying now?
So Laura mentioned my then 4-year-old loved the Disney Junior characters. The entire reason we went to Hollywood Studios, our first trip, was to meet Vampirina and especially Doc McStuffins. But like for Christina, what turns me away from Hollywood and Vine is the decor. From your videos, it looks like a high school cafeteria, sterile and not um, whimsical. But the characters and outfits are tempting.
Yeah, it's meant to feel like a diner, like a 50s diner, I think is kind of what they're going for, but it's a very generic feeling 50s diner. It's not it's in terms of decor, it's not one of my favorites. All right, Jessica, what is our next meal?
Our next one is one of the ones that you can only go to for breakfast. And we're leaving the parks again and we're going to the Polynesian. And this time we're doing Ohana's. But Ohana's is a very unique one in that this is where you can meet Lilo and Stitch. You also see Mickey and Pluto in their Hawaiian Polynesian garb. But if you're a Stitch fan, this is it. If you're a Lilo and Stitch fan, this is the meal for you. It is a breakfast only. I think I said that. one table service credit, so it's a good deal. But it is family style again, all you can eat, family style. The food slightly, I would say it's slightly elevated to some of the other food we've been talking about. It is scrambled eggs, but it's a Hawaiian style, pineapple bread, if Stitch waffles instead of just Mickey waffles. I can't speak to the meat options, but I know they also had potatoes, if I'm remembering correctly. It was I did both Garden Grill family style breakfast and the Ohana family style breakfast. I liked the Ohana better. I think it was a better breakfast. But in my mind, this is the atmosphere at the Polynesian, sitting in that room, looking out at the Polynesian. It's a really cool environment, and it's Stitch, Lilo and Stitch. And I mean, I can't. There's nothing else you need to say. If you're a Lilo and Stitch fan, this is the breakfast for you. It is very hard to get. I would say this is almost as hard to get as Cinderella's Royal Table, and it's only for breakfast. So there's a limited number of reservations. This one, if you want it, you need to get it as soon as possible.
Yeah. I I really liked it as well. I've only done it once. I like Ohana for dinner, mainly because of the noodles. I love the noodles. And the rest of it I can kind of take or leave. So it's a very expensive way to eat some delicious noodles for me when I go for dinner. But for breakfast, I love everything that's on the menu. It is a little bit overpriced for what you're getting, to be fair. I mean, it's all pretty, it's as you mentioned, it's a little bit elevated versions of breakfast basics, but it's still breakfast basics, and it's a lot of money. But I second that it's all about the environment and Stitch and Lilo, and I really actually like being in Ohana more in the morning than I do in the evening because all that light coming in from the windows and the views that you get. We were lucky enough to be seated by a window overlooking the pool, I believe was our view. And it was lovely. When I think back on that breakfast, I remember it as one of my better breakfasts I've had at Disney World. I really liked it. Eric, what are we hearing on the chat about Ohana?
From Denise, so true. If you want a Stitch, this is the place. I thought it was delicious and special. From Laura, Ohana was hands down the most rushed character meal we have ever had at
Wow.
Walt Disney World. One of the few times I felt like we were getting lesser service since we were a small party of two. Could have been a bad day for the cast member, but even my kiddo commented that they felt rushed.
Wow.
Wow.
From Jasmine, we have had a mixed bag at Ohana in terms of service slash food. Um, we've had really good experiences and times where we felt like they were just rushing us out. Okay, so
Interesting. So
mhm.
that does
That's
seem to be
interesting.
a consistent issue. We had the opposite from that when we were there. Our server was very relaxed and chatted with us for a long time, and the characters took a
Hmm.
long time with interactions. But clearly, multiple people having that issue of feeling rushed there. So that sounds like that could be something that may happen to you.
Yeah. I wonder if they oversell spots there sometimes and they gotta churn them out. But I don't know.
Maybe. Yeah. Well, our next meal is easily the most popular in the chat today on Patreon during the day. I'm not sure if it's still what the chat's going looking like during the show, but people really love this one. It is Topolino's Terrace at the Riviera. Topolino, in case you're not aware, is the name for Mickey in Italy, and it's also apparently the name for it's the name of a little mouse is called Topolino, and that's why that's Mickey's name in Italy. And it's a very special character breakfast. It is, however, only a character dining meal during breakfast. So if you go for dinner, it's going to be a fancy pants kind of Italian, but breakfast, it's an elevated breakfast menu. I would say even more so than Ohana. It's going to be the bread basket when it comes out. It's going to have French pastries, croissants, and other delightful goodies. And the you will order a meal from a menu. So this is not like the others where it's kind of family style and they bring out the same thing to every table, you will actually order the meal that you want from the menu. And this is not going to be one of those things where they're going to keep bringing you food. So when you get your breakfast meal, it's just an entree. I do think they will bring you more of like the bread and other things, or the dessert. I think you can get multiple of those maybe, but your entree is just going to be what you get. But it's very good food. Everything we've had there has been delicious. And what's probably most special about it are the character interactions themselves. So the characters that are there are going to be Donald, who is dressed as a sculptor, and Daisy, who is dressed as a fashion designer. There's Minnie, who is dressed as a poet. And then there's Mickey, who's dressed as a painter. And they just really, not only are their outfits themed, but they actually really take it to the next level in terms of the interactions you have with them. Donald is gonna, he's gonna be ready to sculpt you in marble. He's gonna maybe get the kids to pose or something, for his sculpture. And Daisy is absolutely going to be talking about, when I say talking, they don't talk, but, interacting, and it just gives you more to work with when, you can kind of interact with the characters, not just as Mickey, but also as an artist, as artist Mickey, and it's just, it's an elevated character experience, in my opinion. The views from Topolino's Terrace are also spectacular. It is the top floor of the Riviera. You have views, I think, of at least 3 of the theme parks from there. I don't know if you can see quite all 4, but you can see at least 3 of them from there. And it's just floor to ceiling windows. It's really bright and airy in the morning. And best of all, after your meal, you're invited to step out onto the terrace because there's an actual outdoor area, and they do not rush you at all. If you want to just hang out there before or after your meal, you're invited to do so. And it's just a very relaxed environment. I really have enjoyed it when we've been there. And I would say it's definitely worth, if that sounds like something that would be appealing to you and your family, it's going to meet your expectations. It's a very good experience. Jessica, what are your thoughts on Topolino's?
Well, actually, in the car ride, I took my daughter to the airport this weekend. And in the car ride, I told her this was going to be our topic for Monday. And she said I had to talk about how good the food was at the breakfast we went to where Mickey was a painter. That was her. She doesn't remember what it's called, but she said this was her favorite. Like, out of all the meals we had, this is her favorite. So the food, without the characters even there, this would be an amazing breakfast. I think that's the key. I think all of the other places we've talked about, unless I'm forgetting something that we've talked about so far, um, the most exciting part of these are not the food. The most exciting part has been the characters. This to me is the exception to the rule here on this list, one of the exceptions to the rule, and that is the food is phenomenal. The avocado toast, I think she had the steak and eggs. My other daughter had like berry compote on waffles, or I'm trying to remember what it was, but everybody had something, and it was really good food. The interactions were great. The the space is great. I'll just say that's it was one of the best um experiences. We took my mom. This was when we did our girls trip with my daughters, me and my mom, and the 4 of us went there and just had a great time, and you do not feel rushed. I it's If everybody's talking about, we did not feel rushed at all. I think we could have sat there for as long as we wanted to sit there. So,
Yeah. And we had the quiche, I think was the one I
mm,
had last time I was there. It was also delicious. So yeah, this one's
I don't
definitely
remember.
very much about the food. I agree. Although the restaurant you're going to talk about next is actually my favorite
Mhm.
food wise, but
Yeah.
you're right. This
So
is
I
this
said,
is one of the few.
"Yet," that we've talked about yet. That's what
Yet,
I
yeah,
said.
yeah. So, Eric, what are we hearing on the chat about Topolino's?
Ellen. Topolino's was the best meal we had our week, and we had a window table with just a fantastic view. My son doesn't like chocolate, so I asked for extra of the non-chocolate pastries, and they accommodated. Also, little known fact: don't melt the fountains outside.
Oh, good to know. I
And
mean,
from Lord,
I'm sure that if you talk to Donald long enough, he'll tell you that he built the foundation too.
Mhm.
You know, he's an industrious little duck.
yeah.
Anything else before we move on to Jessica's next restaurant that I'm excited to talk about as well? All right, take it away,
So
Jessica.
mine, and I think my last one on the list, or the second to last total, is Tusker House. So we are going to Animal Kingdom, and back there in Africa is the Tusker House restaurant. This is for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It is a buffet again, and you've got Safari, Mickey, Safari, Donald, Daisy, and Goofy. So no Minnie at this, but the four are Donald, Daisy, Mickey, and Goofy in the cutest outfits you will ever see. Ever see. It's just amazing. And the big thing here, though, is much like Topolino's, this is a good food.
Mm-hmm.
This is really good food. It's a great buffet, and it's not your average buffet. For breakfast, for lunch, for dinner, it is elevated food. It is unique food, and it is African flair food, but it just has a lot of flavor, a lot of interesting options, and it also has, full disclosure, for the kids, a kids section. So if your kids just want Mickey waffles and eggs, they have Mickey waffles and eggs. If your kids just want chicken tenders and mac and cheese, there's chicken tenders and mac and cheese. But while they're eating that, you can actually eat food that is really good. I would say if you've been to Boma and you liked that, this is a good comparison. You do have to go into Animal Kingdom, but Animal Kingdom opens early. So this is a great breakfast option. Obviously, Animal Kingdom closes early, so it doesn't have a lot of late options for dinner. You can get it close to close of Animal Kingdom and then kind of leave the park, but I really like it. It's really good. We've been a couple times, and I highly recommend if you're looking for a Mickey in a cute outfit and you're interested in a good buffet. This is an option that I would highly recommend.
Yep. Safari outfits are adorable, but for me, this one is about the food. Like
Hmm.
if there were no characters here, it would still be one of my favorite restaurants in Animal Kingdom. We just finally had breakfast there for the first time, and that's actually going to be in the video, the dining plan video, because we did it for the dining plan. And um, breakfast is the one exception. It's easy to find reservations for this one for lunch and dinner, but breakfast can be a little tough if you're here during a busy period, just because it's a more limited window and it's more popular. I think because it's less expensive for breakfast,
Hmm.
but it's still. I mean, I was shocked. I was curious to see if it was still going to be those adventurous buffet items like you find at like Boma. So there are lots of African inspired dishes. There was a mealy pap with a chicken curry, which I was surprised how much I enjoyed that for breakfast, but it was basically, I mean, mealy pap is
Yeah,
basically
that
like
was good.
grits kind of, you
Grits,
know, and
yeah,
it was
I love
yeah,
the grits.
it was delicious. The babodi, if you've never had babodi before, I'm not even sure I'm saying that correctly, but man, was it so good. I went back for seconds. Um, but even if you're not looking at for like the more, you know, international flavors, they have great traditional food as well. Probably my favorite thing I ate there was a cinnamon roll bread pudding that was, if possible, even better than it sounds. It was just heavenly. It was so good. Um, so really something for everyone there. And I highly recommend Tusker House for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Really great spot. Well, our final restaurant we're going to talk about, we're going alphabetically, but this one's 1900 Park Fair. So even if we put it at the beginning or the end, we decided to put it at the end. 1900 Park Fair was gone for a very long time. It closed during the pandemic and it didn't reopen until much later. And when it reopened, it completely changed. Because as I understand it, 1900 Park Fair used to feature Mary Poppins, was the star there, and now it is an unusual mix of princes and princesses. It's when we were there, it was Aladdin and Tiana and I'm trying to remember
Cinderella and
Cinderella
Mirabelle.
Mirabel.
and Mirabelle.
I think it's always those four.
Yeah, that one is set.
Mhm.
And part of the reason that it's set is because the buffet will also feature a signature dish from each of those characters. So there will be, I can't remember if it was a jambalaya or a gumbo that was from Tiana's kitchen, and then each there was something that was kind of a Middle Eastern food that was representing Aladdin's favorite dish. Those, I will say, are the highlights of this buffet. The foods that were kind of signature foods of the characters were my favorite things there. The downside to this buffet is, oh, the rest of the food is just not good. It was not a good meal. It was it was very maybe it was just when we were there. We've only done it once. If you want to see what it looked like when we were there, it was actually the last dining plan video that we did for last year. We filmed the buffet, but I mean, it was even the buffet itself was just kind of always like half empty, and it looked like things have been sitting out a little bit too long. Um, it was it was overcrowded. It felt like way too many people for the space. The tables were all just kind of, you just felt like you were jammed in there. Um, there was some interesting theming, but it was honestly because everything was so jammed in and you just felt like you were in such a chaotic environment with all the people, you really couldn't appreciate the theming. At least I couldn't. So I did not walk away from 1900 Park Fair thinking it was one that I would be looking forward to returning to. I'm sad to say. I did not care for it, but I do know that some people like it, and a lot of people loved it in its old format. Because I think, Jessica, that was how you had 1900
Yeah.
Park Fair then, right?
I had been to Park Fair twice when it was Mary Poppins, and I'm not going in protest. That is not Mary and Disney is hearing my protest. I know, and deep down. But this is another one where if Tiana or Mirabelle, or if you have a prince that might want to meet Aladdin, these are the only. I mean, this is now Tiana. You can see some other places sometimes in the parks, but Tiana in an interesting outfit. She's kind of in her she's in, I want to say it's a safari outfit, but it's kind of a safari outfit. And Mirabelle, these are great places to meet them. And from what I've heard, the interactions with the characters are really nice there. Um, I am in protest for not having Mary Poppins and Bert. I'm not going.
And it's funny because with this redo of the Grand Floridian, it it feels like in many ways they've added more Mary Poppins,
I
and
know.
and it's really surprising that they took her away from that their signature character
It
meal. It was
makes
kind of
no
strange.
sense.
It was odd, yeah. I think maybe they were planning to have Mary Poppins, but then she saw how the tables were arranged. She was like, "No, no, no, this won't do."
Oh,
And so,
she
yeah,
thought this is not practically perfect in any way.
exactly. So, Eric, does anyone in the chat think it's a practically perfect character meal, or any other thoughts about 1900 Park Fair?
And Diana said, I enjoyed 1900s Park Fair, had a great interaction with the characters. Food was nothing special, but was not bad to me. I also think that the tables were a little close and jammed. And from Laura, Tiana's the reason we book, and Aladdin saved this meal. I wish I could have submitted 12 cast compliments for Aladdin.
Well, that's great to hear.
That is good to hear.
The character interactions, I will agree, were all wonderful. As I recall, Tiana is wearing her outfit from the attraction, from Tiana's Bayou
Yes.
Adventure.
Well, that's what
Yes.
it is.
Yeah, and so that's kind of unique. It is, you can also meet Tiana sometimes at Akershus, but you never know. Does she ever show up at Cinderella's Royal Table maybe as well? I'm not sure.
Sometimes, I believe.
Yeah. So she could be found other places, but Mirabelle and Aladdin, I don't think you see them at any other character meal than here, that I can
Not another
think of.
character meal, no.
Yeah. So those are definitely super unique. All right. Well, now is the part where we're gonna share our top three and our bottom three, and we're also gonna share with you the results of our poll from Patreon, their top three and bottom three. So I'm just gonna go ahead and start with my bottom three, and then I'll hand it off to Jessica. Number three is bad, and number one is the worst. So going towards the worst. Number three for me is going to be 1900 Park Fair. I just, while the character interactions were great, I just the ambiance, the environment, the food, it wasn't phenomenal. Number two for me in terms of the bottom would be Chef Mickey's. And that's just as we talked about. It's just it's loud. It's a little bit chaotic, um, but I'm not going to put it at the very bottom because it is a really good character interaction as well. You have a good experience with the characters, and if your kids want to dance with Mickey, that's a cool thing that they can do there. My bottom is Be Our Guest, and it's kind of almost not fair to put in there because it is not truly a character meal, but that's kind of why it is my bottom. I mean, you just don't really have much of an interaction with the beast, and the food just doesn't warrant the price tag, in my opinion. The only upside is the environment, is the ambiance, and it's worth doing if you're Beauty and the Beast fan. But otherwise, I'd say Be Our Guest is a skip in its current incarnation. Jessica, what are your bottom three?
My bottom 3 are the same, and I think, 1900 Park Fair, it's a bottom because they don't have Mary Poppins anymore, so that's a little bit of a cop out, but that is in my bottom. I think when I look at bottom, I look at ones I won't be going back to, and I won't be going back to Chef Mickey and Be Our Guest. And the ones I don't recommend to people. I don't recommend Chef Mickey's to people, and I don't recommend Be Our Guest to people. In fact, I tell people I wouldn't go. Like, if you're a big fan of Beauty and the Beast, go to the Belle's Enchanted Storytime with Belle. Do that and then eat somewhere else. I don't recommend Be Our Guest. And I don't recommend if you're going to go, if you want to have a good meal and you want to see Mickey, eat at the quick service and drink at the bar next to Chef Mickey. Don't go to Chef Mickey. So,
Yeah. Well, we had a poll on Patreon, and there were very few restaurants that were in the single digits. But coming in at number three in the bottom three was Chef Mickey's. Was at the Contemporary, only got 6 votes for Chef
mm,
Mickey's. Behind that, this one surprised me. Hollywood and Vine. Hollywood and Vine only got 4 votes. So that is the number 2 least favorite. But the bottom with 0 votes. No one voted for Be Our Guest. So yeah, I think that sounds pretty universal. Be Our Guest
mhm.
is a skip. But now let's talk about a more fun topic, which is our top three, the three that we love the most. And for me, number three in my top three is actually going to be Storybook Dining at Artist Point. Even though it's not my favorite food, the food is good. It's not amazing, but it's good. But the ambiance of it, the fact that it's a table service meal, that you feel like you're not as rushed to kind of go run back and forth to the buffet and have to split that up with time with the characters. The fact that you get that dedicated moment with the evil queen, I I love that evil queen
Mhm.
interaction, so that alone is enough to make it one of my favorites. But yeah, I would say that is my number three. My number two favorite is one that a lot of people put as their number one, and that is Topolino's Terrace for all the reasons we mentioned. Great character interactions, really great food. But for me, the number one is Tusker House. I love that food so much. I love the character interactions. I love the costumes the characters are in. There's nothing. I've got nothing bad to say about Tusker House. There's no drawbacks. It's just a great meal, breakfast, lunch, or dinner. So that is my number one. Jessica, what are your top three?
So when I looked at top three, I decided to take food out of the equation a little bit and think about the experience, mainly because in a lot of ways for these, you're paying for the experience. And what the memory to me is of these experiences. And so for me, number three is Cinderella's Royal Table. I look back at the times I have dined there great with great love. It was some of the best experiences I've had with my kids. It was some of the best experiences I've had at Magic Kingdom. It was magical in all the ways you want it to be. So Cinderella Royal Table is there. Then I'll put Tusker House, because once again, the kids' experiences with Donald and Daisy there, that was when they were younger. I just have those memories. It was great. And the food is also good there. But it should come as no surprise to anyone who's listened to me that the best interactions we've had are with Eeyore. The best interactions I've had as an adult, as a mother with little children, a mother with grown children, have been with the Winnie the Pooh characters. And even if they didn't have churro waffles, I think it would be on my top three list, because the interactions we've had with the Winnie the Pooh characters there are just phenomenal. So for me, that's number one. And I think it's because of the characters. That's just how I chose to rank those, was kind of the feeling they
Crystal
evoke.
Palace is your number
Crystal
one.
Palace. Yeah, Crystal Palace is my number one. And that's just why. So Crystal Palace, Cinderella's Royal Table, and Tusker House are kind of my top three. And they're the ones that I think evoke the most memories for me.
All right. Well, the winners in our poll on Patreon kind of ran away with it. I mean, they were pretty far ahead of the pack. Coming in third place was Tusker House. So it did make the list, but not quite as high as either of us put it. Coming in second place was Crystal Palace. That got 37 votes. Tusker House had gotten 37 votes for Crystal Palace. But the number one pick of our Patreon family was Topolino's Terrace at the Riviera with 40 votes. So I do feel like we all kind of agreed about the top and the bottom, little difference here and there, but I feel like that gives you a good idea if you're torn between one or another. I hope that those rankings will help you decide what should break the tie. And with that said, we have our question of the week next, and that is also dining related. Jessica, what is this week's question of the week?
This comes from our Patreon, and it's from Christina. I need some advice. Planning our Disney Springs night for our arrival day, and I need some suggestions for dinner. We have a handful of restaurants that have caught our eye, but are very open to suggestions. We are definitely foodie people and will pay for a good meal. Last question, can all of these restaurants have reservation options? Which ones are through Disney and which ones are reservations through the restaurant itself? Thank you for all the suggestions. And one of the things I do want to just kind of, the last part of her question, I think, is kind of the one I want to touch on just a little bit, and then we'll just open it up to suggestions. But at Disney Springs specifically, there are a lot of restaurants that have the availability of open table or reservation options that are not through Disney. So if you're looking at Disney reservations and you can't find some of the restaurants there, please look at open table, look at the reservations systems through the websites for those restaurants. Disney Springs gives you a lot more options to get reservations, I think, than some of the restaurants there. And that's, she asked that. I think this is really good. I will say Wine Bar George, Boathouse, Homecoming, Summer House, Frontera Cantina, the Paradiso 57, Wolfgang Puck's. All of those have open table options that we've been able to find, even when Disney said there was nothing available. So I just do think that's an important distinction that not a lot of people talk about, that if you want a good meal and you're willing to go to Disney Springs, there's some options you don't have to do that 60-day reservation window for. But as far as what I would recommend for people with adventurous palates, Vallejo was one she mentioned. I think that's a really good one there. And I have I'm bigger fan of Boathouse than Paddlefish. I think Boathouse is better than Paddlefish. I don't know what you say, but I think Boathouse is also a great option. If you're good with like small plates, eating at Wine Bar George, they have really good food at Wine Bar George. It's not quite like a meal, like a big, but you can get enough food if you do like the apps. And they have an amazing cocktail list, an amazing wine. That's what it is. It's a wine bar. That was a really good option. And then my hidden gem there is what Frontera I can't say the other word. I call it Conchina, but that's not right. But I love the Mexican place there, Rick Bayless. It's amazing. That to me is one of the best, and you can almost always get bar seating if there's just two of you. And lots of good margarita options. Same margaritas that are in La Cava in the Mexican pavilion. So amazing. So that's kind of my kind of big ones that I would recommend: Halejo, Boathouse, Wine Bar George, and then Frontera.
Haleo is Jose Andres,
Mhm,
who's the celebrity chef who's behind that one. I love Haleo, but I would actually recommend do that one during they have like a happy hour where you can go, and it's a very reasonably priced for happy hour, and you can get a lot of his kind of they're more small bites. It's gonna be more like a tapas kind of a meal, but there's some of his signature, there's these croquettes that are like ham croquettes that are heavenly. They're really good that are on that small bites menu. I would say my favorites that you can get reservations for, 'cause I think everyone knows my favorite is Polite Pig. Love
mhm,
Polite Pig, but we're not that you can't get reservations there. That's more of a walk up. But, I really enjoy I agree, Wine Bar George is great. I think that's a great pick, especially if you want kind of, they have a lot of, like, kind of Spanish-inspired tapas kinda stuff there.
mhm,
I also really love we just went there for the first time, Enzo's Hideaway. Really enjoyed the meal there. I did not care for Marie and Enzo's, which is the same owners, same it's essentially I think they even share a kitchen, but for some reason, the menu at Enzo's Hideaway, I thought was significantly better than what was at Marie and Enzo's. So if you've tried Marie and Enzo's and were underwhelmed, maybe give Enzo's Hideaway a chance. It's kind of like the speakeasy
mhm,
that accompanies Marie and Enzo's. Um, and then, I would agree with you. I think Frontera is a good pick. They have a really interesting menu there. Um, yeah, and then the other one I would add in is Homecoming. If you're a fan of really good fried chicken, Southern food, I think Homecoming is a great pick, and that is the Chef Art Smith's restaurant at Disney Springs. Anything from Patreon? Any suggestions for Disney Springs picks?
Becky just said that she loves Wine Bar George, but also Jan was suggesting if we are going to have like a special mention for Jesse's Roundup coming to the Diamond Horseshoe.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Is have we determined is Jesse gonna be there? Is it gonna be a character meal with Jesse?
Seems that way. They're going to
It
be
looks like it's to be like
a
hoop-de-doo,
show.
like a show, not
Yes, there's going to be a show.
interactions.
Okay. All right. Well, no, that's definitely worth mentioning. Thanks for bringing that up. Yeah. So they're for Cool Kids Summer, which is I think that's what they're doing it for, right?
Mhm,
It's like a limited time summer thing. Cool Kid Summer is where Disney World is just doing extra stuff for the summer to make things even more fun. And one of those things is that the Diamond Horseshoe, which serves the exact same menu as Liberty Tree Tavern, they have the same kitchen, it's the exact same food, it's just a different environment. And Liberty Tree Tavern is a little bit more like kind of a I don't know, like a homey kind of. It's a little bit more dark. It's a little bit more like old colonial vibe, whereas Diamond Horseshoe is like an old saloon and there's a stage and a player piano. And for Cool Kids Summer, there's going to be a Jesse from Toy Story themed roundup show that I think is going to be really fun. I'm looking forward to that. I will definitely be going to Diamond Horseshoe to check it out when it happens, and that's kind of a character. I mean, I don't think you'll have character meet and greet with Jesse, but I think you'll get to see Jesse do a show, which is more of a character interaction than the Beast at at Be Our Guest. So, all right. Um, well, unfortunately, we only have time for that one question this week. So now we are going to end, as we always do, with happy thoughts. Jessica, what is your happy thought this week?
Well, for those of you watching on YouTube or watching on Patreon, you will have gotten a sneak peek to my happy thought, which is on Friday, I am going to go see Draco Malfoy. Tom Felton as Draco Malfoy on Broadway. I'm going to see The Cursed Child. I've been trying to get tickets since it was announced he was coming, and I couldn't figure out how to get there and all of this. So I'm super excited. I am a Slytherin. I know there was some confusion in the Patreon about I should be a Ravenclaw. Probably should be a Ravenclaw, but somehow I'm always a Slytherin. But I love Tom Felton. I do love the Harry Potter books. And I'm just super excited about this. I've wanted to see this on Broadway since it came out, and being able to see it with him, I'm super excited. So I will probably be talking about it again next week after I see it. So just be prepared. But I thought I would just give a little shout out. Also, my glasses, I have the pair I wear. So these are my Slytherin glasses. So very excited. I'm all Slytherined out. I'm ready.
Well, I have to
Um,
say, since you have such a deep love for Tom Felton, aka Draco Malfoy, was it? I mean, that that might have something to do with the fact that you found yourself a Slytherin.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's actually more of, if you actually look at what Slytherins are, they're leaders who understand how to bring out, they may not be the smartest or the best, but they understand how to bring out the best in other people. They actually use other people's skills to build a team. It's actually, if you look at the good qualities of a Slytherin, it's actually what I'm
Okay,
good at.
all right,
Um, so I do believe I can spin the fact that a Slytherin is actually a good thing. Maybe not in the books, but it actually is what I am. But I think I love Tom Felton because he was the character who's most underappreciated, I think, in the book. So
all right. Well, Eric, what is your happy thought this week?
So today, actually, we were able to meet some of the fancy characters that you don't normally see. And I was able to get some photos with Mrs. Incredible and Edna Mood. And I think the highlight of sharing those photos with Rob today was that he made a very terrible pun, and he wrote like, "Oh, those are incredible." And I don't know, it was terrible, but it made my day in a way. So yeah.
So, are they
Oh,
coming to Magic Kingdom? Are they
no,
going to be for?
it,
Because they're
it
in
was
Hollywood Studios, right?
yes. So for Cool Kids Summer, we have them in Tomorrowland, but I don't know if they are coming
oh,
back. Yes, I don't know if they are coming back. But right now it was just like they were doing an event.
Those were adorable photos. So they were incredible photos.
mm.
Um, so my happy thought this week is I was lucky enough to be able to participate in one of the early previews of the revamped Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger spin. Um, Thank you to Eric for helping me to. We were able to do that preview because Eric was able to get access to that preview. And I got to tell you, if you liked Lightyear Space Ranger Spin before, you're going to love it now. I mean, it is. I've been lucky enough to ride this attraction in 4 different parks. At Magic Kingdom, there's a version in Disneyland, there's a version in Tokyo Disneyland, there's a version in Disneyland Paris, and this is the first time out of all those times of riding it that I consistently knew what I was shooting and what I was aiming at, like which of the little laser beams was mine. And that's a feat in a ride like this because, I mean, there's just so many people aiming and shooting, but the blasters are so much better. You can actually hold it and, aim it like a traditional blaster. It's not like it's fixed to the vehicle like before. But the my biggest takeaway from this experience was somehow the Imagineers made this attraction both exactly like the old Buzz Lightyear and nothing like the old Buzz Lightyear all at the
Hmm.
same time. Like everything feels upgraded, everything feels fresh and new and exciting, even though it's much of it is the exact same thing that was there. It's just been polished up a little bit. You know, it's been given a new, it feels, everything feels more elevated. It's easier to play the game. It's a more exciting game to play. It's more fun to play it. The video tunnel that you go through, whereas before you weren't really aiming at the things that
Mhm.
were flying around you on the wall. I mean, you could shoot at them, but you weren't getting points for actually hitting anything because there were no sensors there. But in this new version, there are actually targets that are flying around you, and you can aim and hit the targets, and they react to being hit. So a huge upgrade for this attraction, and I can't wait for it to open and for everyone to be able to experience it. I do think it's going to be very popular. I think this is going to become one of the longer lines and one of the more difficult tier 2 lightning lanes to book when it reopens. So excited for that, and also excited to see you all next week for our next episode. I think, will Craig be back with us next week?
I
He
believe
will,
so.
yes. So we'll have the gang will all be here. It'll be nice to have the gang back together again. Until then, hope everyone has a lovely week, and we hope it's filled with lots of happy thoughts. See you again real soon, everybody.